I have taken it upon myself to draft the best game in each week of the 2026 college football season. I included week 0 in here because why not? Now, week 0 may not be the official start to the college football season, but I have chosen to include it. So, week 0, there are plenty of games that I could have chosen from. I could have went NC State at Virginia. I could have went TCU in North Carolina over in Dublin. I decided to go a different route here. I decided to go with a group of 6 game, the only group of 6 game that'll be mentioned on this slate. Memphis at UNLV. Two teams with playoff aspirations because that is legally part of the college football playoff process is that a group of 6 team is included. Memphis, they have a new head coach in Charles Huff. UNLV, Dan Mullen returns for his second season as the head coach of UNLV. Had a really good year last year, and they meet in week 0. 9 o'clock kickoff, caffeine special. I will be up for that one. So that's where I decided to go in week 0. In week 1, not the most loaded slate of games for a Labor Day weekend on a Saturday. There's Clemson at LSU, Baylor and Auburn in Atlanta, or Oregon and Boise State, which don't sleep on that game. Boise State is my favorite to make the college football playoff, and they play Oregon, who is a national championship contender. If we're talking sleeper games as well, I wanted to add this to the mix. UCLA plays on the road at Cal, or up the street, should I say. Cal is one of those dark horse teams in the ACC that I've been talking about with JKS, their quarterback, and UCLA. They just brought in Bob Chesney from James Madison. So, old Pac-12 matchup. That's in week 1. It's a sleeper. It's not going to be the most prominent game. And Louisville and Ole Miss, they play Sunday night, 6:30 in Nashville. I'll be in attendance for that game, so we'll have coverage from Nashville there for that game. But I decided to go Clemson at LSU. This is where game day is going to be. This is where all the big primetime shows are going to be. Lane Kiffin's debut at LSU. Dabo Swinney, will he right the ship at Clemson? They're going to the other Death Valley to find out, and that'll be a big week 1 game. Week 2. Just a loaded slate in week 2. You have Ohio State at Texas, Oklahoma at Michigan for the back end of a home and home there. You have Oregon at Oklahoma State, Arizona State at Texas A&M, Mississippi State at Minnesota, which I actually talked about on the last show. A matchup that's not commonly played, and if we're going to have this debate about which conference is superior between the Big Ten and the SEC, Mississippi State is regarded as one of the lower tier teams in the SEC, and Minnesota is a middle of the pack team in the Big Ten. Now, whoever wins this game is not going to determine. That's not the end all say all about who the best conference is. It's a data point. It's a data point, and I care about regular season matchups. Tennessee at Georgia Tech, Arkansas at Utah. That's going to be a fun one. A 9:15 kickoff, I'm told, in Salt Lake City. Ohio State, Texas. That is the primetime marquee matchup of week 2. 2 national championship contenders in the preseason. Julian Sayin versus Arch Manning. Another back end of a home and home. Ohio State and Texas is the game I'm looking forward to most in week 2. At week 3, a little bit of a lighter slate, but there's one big game. One big game that might be the most watched college football game of the entire season, and that is LSU at Ole Miss. Do I even need to explain why? No, I don't. That's pretty self-explanatory. Toxic. That atmosphere is going to be toxic, and what I would give to have a ticket to be on the 50-yard line in Oxford at 6:30 on September 19th. Buckle up, folks. Week 4. You could go a variety of directions during week 4. You have Oregon at USC, you have Oklahoma at Georgia, Texas A&M at LSU, Ole Miss at Florida, Iowa at Michigan, Texas at Tennessee. I decided to go with Oregon at USC because if USC is going to make the playoffs like I think they will, they get Oregon at home this year. They get Washington at home this year. They get Ohio State at home. They're going to have to win at least 2 of those games. And this would be a start. Beating a big-time opponent in your building with expectations as high as they are for Lincoln Riley in year 5 on the job. It's playoff or bust. And this is the start of what proves to be a very difficult schedule for USC. So I have Oregon at USC as the primetime matchup in week 4. In week 5, not as much of a heavyweight of a slate as some of the other weeks. You have Washington at USC. You have Ohio State at Iowa. And we know Iowa at night is a tough place to play. Miami at Clemson. Who knows how good Clemson is going to be this year? We figure Miami is going to be a national championship contender, but how good is Clemson? You have Auburn at Tennessee. Alex Golesh, their head coach, returning to the place he was the offensive coordinator at in 2022 when Tennessee had that magical offense. I decided to go Washington at USC here as well. So another big game for USC that I would pick today, USC to win that game. They need to win that game if they want to make the playoffs. So that's why I talk about Washington as being a team that can wreck everything in the Big Ten. You go on the road at USC and you sneak a win, that suddenly starts to get a little tight around the neck area if you're Lincoln Riley at USC. At week 6, what I've loved, one of the matchups that I loved in recent memory, that's honestly a new rivalry in the SEC, and that's Georgia at Alabama. You get Iowa at Washington, which is a Friday night game. You get Texas at Missouri. You get USC at Penn State, which is the whiteout game. And you get Texas at Oklahoma, the Red River Shootout, referred to by no other name on this show. Georgia at Alabama. That's the easy option there. SEC championship stakes, I'm sure. We get a good look at whoever's starting at quarterback for Alabama. They get a big-time home game against another national championship contender in the Georgia Bulldogs. Week 7. Week 7 is one of my favorite weeks of this college football season, just kind of going through the calendar here. You get Ohio State at Indiana, the biggest game in the history of Indiana football. You get Notre Dame at BYU, which I'm hoping becomes a new rivalry in the sport. Notre Dame not playing USC this year, so they replace USC on their calendar with BYU, which I actually, I hate that we're not getting the traditional USC Notre Dame matchup. But Notre Dame at BYU, I hope they play this game every year. Florida is at Texas that day. Missouri is at Ole Miss. Alabama at Tennessee, the third Saturday in October, which, by the way, some uniform detailing on that game, which I'll actually touch on at the tail end of the show. So make sure that you're tuned in for that. And then you get Penn State at Michigan. Ohio State at Indiana is the clear-cut choice here. 2 preseason national championship teams, both within the top 6 of the preseason AP poll. The biggest game in the history of Indiana football. Bloomington is going to be rocking that day. Season tickets already sold out for the Hoosiers. It's a clear choice. It is the clear choice there. Week 8, Ole Miss goes to Texas that day. Oregon is at Illinois. They'll play in Champaign. Indiana at Michigan. Texas A&M at Alabama. And Houston at Utah. Well, I have Ole Miss at Texas. Texas has the most talented roster they've had under Steve Sarkisian. Ole Miss, can they replicate some of the magic that they were able to create last year with Trinidad Chambliss? That's going to be a fun matchup. And plus, I couldn't tell you if Ole Miss has ever played at Texas before. I'm sure it's happened in the history of college football, but personally, I've never witnessed it. So I'm really excited for that. Week 9, loaded Week 9 slate. Ohio State at USC is that day. Another one of the big home games for USC that they get this year. Arizona State is at BYU. That was a really big game 2 years ago. Could be a really big game this year as well. Now, I put this on the schedule for selfish purposes, if I'm being 100% transparent with you. Washington is at Nebraska that day. Now, I know Nebraska doesn't have super lofty expectations this year. However, Nebraska's wearing their all-black uniforms. It's Halloween. I have a big soft spot in my heart for the city of Lincoln, and I love that Nebraska fan base. So I put this game on here. They got a sympathy vote. They got a sympathy vote, if I'm being just 100% honest with you. Florida at Georgia. College football had an excellent opportunity here with Florida, Georgia, with their usual spot in Jacksonville, the stadium undergoing renovations. So they could have played this game in Gainesville. They could have played this game in Athens. But yet they decided to play this game in Atlanta. Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Dang it, college football. We had an excellent opportunity to do something special there. And you screwed that one up. So that's also on the docket for that week. I have Ohio State at USC. That is just another big game for the Trojans, another big game for Ohio State, traveling out west to LA, 2 playoff contenders. I have that one as my favorite for week 9. Week 10, one of the most loaded slates. I believe this is November 7th. So if you have any plans for fall weddings, cancel them on that day. If you plan on going to a birthday party that day, cancel plans. Cancel all your plans on November 7th. Let me just read to you this slate. Oregon at Ohio State. The preseason number 1 and 2 teams. Miami at Notre Dame. Notre Dame got left out of the playoff last year because they lost to Miami. And now they get them into South Bend. You got a team from South Beach traveling to South Bend, Indiana in early November. Georgia is at Ole Miss that day. Texas is at Missouri. Oklahoma is at Florida. BYU at Utah, the Holy War, one of the best rivalries in the sport. Penn State is at Washington that day. And I just threw this one in here. Friday night, you got SMU at Virginia Tech. I took the easy way out. I have 2 favorites for that day. Oregon and Ohio State, obviously, and then Miami, Notre Dame. When we first started this show, I did a segment where I listed my top 10 most anticipated games of the college football season, and both of these games were on that list. And they happen to fall on the same weekend. I just hope they're not at the same time. Because if they're at the same time, we're going to have the dual screen action, and it's going to be a little tough to focus there with both of those games going on at the same time. Week 11, you have Texas at LSU, you have Michigan at Oregon, Missouri at Georgia, USC at Indiana, Tennessee at Texas A&M, and Ole Miss at Oklahoma, which was a phenomenal game a year ago. I have Texas at LSU. Can you imagine Lane Kiffin and LSU walking into Austin, Texas to take on Steve Sarkisian and Arch Manning? I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. Week 12, not quite yet rivalry week. You have Texas A&M at Oklahoma, Indiana at Washington, Texas A&M at Oklahoma, LSU at Tennessee, and SMU at Notre Dame. Again, one of the gripes that I have with the college football calendar as a whole is you have these weekends in the schedule where it's just a loaded weekend, and there are so many marquee matchups. And then there are other weekends where it's a lighter slate, still important, but it's a lighter slate. And I just wish that college football, if you have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, the peanut butter is so chunky and just not spread out evenly across the bread. And I compare that to college football. The schedule, you just have these weekends where it's just marquee matchup after marquee matchup on one singular weekend. Then you go to maybe another weekend, it's light. Spread it out a little bit more. So with week 12, I decided to go Texas A&M at Oklahoma. You have Marcel Reed and Mike Elko and co. going to Norman, Oklahoma to take on these are 2 playoff contenders in the preseason, at least. 2 teams that made the playoff last year. So I think that's going to be really fun. And then you get to rivalry week, week 13. You have Texas at Texas A&M on a Friday, You have Washington at Oregon. You have Oklahoma at Missouri, USC at UCLA, Tennessee at Vandy, and Michigan at Ohio State. The game. Now, I fought against my better judgment because, to me, Michigan and Ohio State is the best rivalry we have in college football, and then right under it is the Iron Bowl. I'd be willing to hear both sides of the argument. I fought against my better judgment, and I went to one of the better renewed rivalries that we have in the sport, and that is Texas at Texas A&M. Texas A&M has yet to beat Texas since they joined the SEC. And if Texas A&M wants to make the playoff, this is going to be a game that they need to win. So, and then out of respect, because I love the USA, I love America, I love our troops, Army and Navy on December 2nd at MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey. I'm so patriotic.